Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the new James Cameron sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water. This has been 13 years since the original Avatar came out. James Cameron finally released his new movie. He supposedly has shot several scenes for some of his other sequels that he hopes to work on with this Avatar franchise. But Avatar 2: The Way of Water is finally here. This one for sure is completed and ready to go. And I know James Cameron has worked very hard on this movie. I know the pandemic kind of pushed this movie around a little bit as well, on top of all the work that had to go into it to get it made. But in this movie, you guys, basically, if you remember the first Avatar film, it focused on a character named Jake Sully. And so he has a family now. He's living with the Navi, like we saw him last in the first Avatar movie. He has a family. He's trying to teach his family, the way of the Navi within the rainforest. But things kind of start to go bad again when they find out that the Sky People have returned. Some of them have even returned in Navi form, the way that some of them had both a human and a Navi form in the first movie as well. So some of the villains of the first movie now have a Navi form as well. So to make sure that to win any more fights against the Sky People, because clearly they're probably not going to back down. Clearly they're not going to just let the first fight happen and just kind of back away from it forever. So Jake Sully and the other Navi basically reach out to this water clan of Navi who live out in the oceans, who live out in the waters of Pandora, and they're hoping that this is going to better their chances against the fight against the Sky People so that the Sky People can vanish forever from Pandora. But overall, guys, I really like this movie. James Cameron, I know, has worked extremely hard on this. There was talks for years that he was trying to get all the Avatar sequels made for a smaller budget than the first film, while still making them huge and big like the first movie as well. And so I've always been a fan of the first Avatar. I will be honest though, I don't think it's James Cameron's absolute best movie. I think that title belongs to either Terminator 2 or True Lies. I think those are two films of his that I really, really enjoy. I know a lot of people like Titanic and Aliens and all that kind of stuff. So I've always liked how James Cameron has pushed practical effects to its limits, pushed budgets to their limits. And, with the day and age that we live in now, you kind of have to do more than just have the best digital effects in town, have the best CGI in town, have the best 3D in town. And so this is a challenging film where, they say they're pushing the boundaries, but they're really just kind of continuing what the first Avatar did. And that's not a bad thing. I think they've done a very good job. I think they did a good job with continuing that legacy that the first Avatar film started. I know there was a lot of 3D films that happened after the first Avatar, but I think Avatar did it the best. So I really enjoyed this movie. Like I said, it's not the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I don't know if I'll personally put this on my top 10 best of the year list by the time I get that ready to go, but let's talk about some positive and negatives and things I liked about about this new Avatar movie, and some things I thought weren't quite as good, and why maybe the first Avatar film is probably a little bit better in my opinion. So for my positives and negatives of Avatar 2, you guys, this film is a visual feast for the eyes. It's made on a grand scale. Of course, it's a James Cameron film. Of course, those things are going to happen. This film is just full of visuals. It's, when they're in the water, you get to see all the fish creatures and all the ocean creatures that live in the water. The 3D effects are top notch. The 3D effects are clearly going to be better than most films you see in 3D today. And like any James Cameron film, it's told on a grand scale. He's definitely the master of sequels. He knows how to go bigger with his movies with sequels. Terminator 2 did this, Aliens did this, and now Avatar 2 has done this. Clearly, James Cameron knows how to make each film bigger and better. He knows how to reach for the stars, make the best film he possibly can. And so Avatar 2 definitely reflects those abilities of James Cameron really well, and it's definitely a visual feast for the eyes. James Cameron's stance on the oceans is very clear here. He's telling us to protect the oceans, do whatever we can to make sure no more whales get killed, no more fish get killed. We have to preserve the earth the best we can. He did that a lot with rainforests in the first Avatar film, and clearly he's trying to tell that message again with the oceans. I clearly understand now there's two films now where James Cameron's clearly telling us protect the earth, protect the land we live on. And I 100% understand the message. He did it again here. He did it well in the first Avatar, and he did it well in this new movie. Clearly, his stance is protect the oceans, and I 100% get that message while watching this movie. The content with the water Navi I thought was very interesting. Probably one of the better parts of the movie, to be honest with you. Um, the way we get to learn about how the water Navi do battles, how they get to ride their own creatures, how in the first Avatar film we had these sky dragons and kind of what their versions of the sky dragons are for battles and stuff like that. How they communicate in the water so they can communicate better during battles and stuff. So all the stuff with the water Navi I thought was really interesting. It really was kind of the more original parts of the movie, I guess you could say. It definitely didn't just feel like Pocahontas in space again like the first movie did, because I know that's kind of the criticism the first Avatar got. Very interesting stuff. The water Navi content for me was probably some of the more interesting parts of this movie. I also felt very invested in Jake Sully's family. Every time something bad happened, every time something bad happened to one of his sons, every time something bad happened to one of his daughters, I wanted this family to live on. I wanted this family to survive. I wanted them to get rid of the Sky People once and for all, because I know how many problems they've had now over the course of 2 movies with the Sky People. So James Cameron finds ways to get you invested in these characters. He writes the characters out very well. I'm one of those people where I always like when the original roster of characters get as much love as the new characters do, because clearly we're going to be introduced to some new characters with this being a sequel. And James Cameron, I thought, balances both very well, both continuing to develop those original characters like Jake Sully and Neytiri from the first movie, while also developing some of these new characters we're introduced to, like Jake Sully's son and daughter and so forth. So I felt invested in this family. James Cameron did a great job writing the characters of this movie. The film also explores more of Pandora. One thing that's probably going to get me excited for the other Avatar sequels once they get made, I'm sure this movie will make enough money for at least Avatar 3 to at least get made, is I do like the idea that we are exploring more of Pandora. The first film is about the rainforests, second film is about the oceans. Who knows what the third film will be about, maybe about the ground or something like that. Or maybe the sky, or who knows what the third film is going to be about. But I do like the idea of exploring more of Pandora, getting to see more of the land, because we really didn't get, we got maybe a taste of the oceans just a little bit in the first one, but we really didn't get a clear taste of just how big the oceans are in Pandora. So I like the idea of exploring different parts of the planet for each film. So hopefully that trend will continue in more sequels if we get those. There's also small references to other James Cameron films. I caught some references to True Lies and to Titanic. There's actually a shot of Jamie Lee Curtis hitting a chair toward a mirror while she's being interrogated. That shot kind of gets brought back for Avatar 2. There's also a shot of Jake Sully and Neytiri trying to survive kind of this underwater sinking of a ship, and it very much reminded me of Jack and Rose trying to survive the sinking ship in Titanic and so forth. Small little references to James Cameron films every once in a while. I thought that was kind of clever. So if you're looking for a film where James Cameron kind of does small little references to some of his other work, I found a lot of that here in this movie, whether it's direct or intentional or unintentional. There's definitely a lot of times in this movie where I was reminded of other James Cameron films while watching this movie. For my negatives, though, Avatar 2, this is a very long movie. I was telling a good friend of mine who I was seeing this movie with after when the film was over with, I think a good solid 45 minutes could have been trimmed out of this movie. There's just a lot of moments that are really not needed in this movie. There's a scene where like Jake Sully's son gets bullied. There's a lot of scenes where we get to see all the stuff in the ocean and stuff. It's important to have some of that stuff there, but there's just a lot of things where I think with a good solid editor, with a good solid person of that just really wants to kind of get down to the meat of the story. I think with one more good solid edit, I think this version of the film that we got was a good director's cut version of Avatar 2, but I feel like the real theatrical cut that's probably would have benefited from maybe no more than 2 hours, 20 minutes at tops. I think there's a version of Avatar 2 that exists somewhere that would have benefited from such a runtime. So at 3 hours, because that's unfortunately how long this movie is, this film feels a little long. There's also some lazy character resurrections. There's 2 characters that I won't bring up, but if you're going to see this movie, it's not going to spoil anything. But there is 2 characters that kind of get brought back to life from the first movie, and how the 2 of them are kind of worked their way into this new movie, I thought was a little lazy. they could have just wrote another really new, interesting, villain and a new, interesting character for this other person to play. But they kind of resurrected them in a way that felt kind of lazy to me. Um, so that aspect of the story regarding the writing, I thought was a little lazy to me. There's also a lot of similar and familiar themes that the first Avatar did that this first film tries to imitate as well. And because it is kind of a retread of those ideas, it does feel like we're kind of repeating things again. So I'm sure they're going to go through with the third Avatar film at least, but hopefully they're not going to just repeat the same ideas again, because it really just kind of felt like repeating the same territory all over again. So there is a lot of themes that the first Avatar film had that this film uses as well, and it did feel like a little bit of a retread, unfortunately. Some of the spectacle out of the first film I thought too was a little gone here, because when the first Avatar film came out, that 3D was really spectacular. It was brand new. They brought back 3D after years of it being gone. It was more so, digital 3D now and stuff. Some of that felt kind of gone to me. It just kind of felt like a continuation of the first one without kind of upgrading it in any way. So as far as spectacle goes, I'm probably going to give that to the first Avatar film over this one. Some of the spectacle felt a little bit gone to me this time around. I also thought the 3D, even though it was very impressive and better than probably most 3D films today, I thought the 3D worked better in the first movie. Because I remember when I saw the first Avatar, when we go into the rainforest and we see like those jellyfish creatures, it feels like they are floating around the room. It does feel like when the 3D is in effect and the characters are charging towards the screen, we feel like we're there with them. So I thought the Avatar 3D effects in the first movie were more effective this time than in the sequel, though very impressive. There's definitely a lot of small glimpses of like when the rain falls, it feels like it's dripping in the theater and stuff. But for the most part, though I like the 3D in this movie, it felt more impressive in the first Avatar film for me. But overall, I'm going to give Avatar 2 The Way of Water an 8.5 out of 10. It's very good. It's very well done. I think there is better James Cameron films out there. I hope Avatar 3 will find new themes to explore and just, the whole Save the Earth theme again. Because I really feel like now with two films that are exploring that in the Avatar universe, hopefully they're going to explore different things in Avatar sequels moving forward. Really great film, definitely a visual feast for the eyes. A little long in the runtime. I think that's probably one of my bigger complaints with it. 8.5 out of 10 from me, though. Really enjoyed Avatar 2 The Way of Water. I think I just prefer the first film a little bit more just because it was so unique at the time, but still a very solid sequel, still a very fun time at the theater. If you have not seen Avatar 2 The Way of Water, I do recommend seeing it.